Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith, and welcome to my preview of the big UFC fight going tomorrow night between Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, this is for the lightweight title. It is at 155 pounds. Conor McGregor was the lightweight champion, went off to fight Floyd Mayweather, never had a huge desire to come running back. If you had $100 million, you wouldn't probably be looking forward to taking your next punch either. And he took some time off. UFC went on, and Khabib is the lightweight champion. Now, Khabib is 26-0. He is a grappler. There's legit video of this guy wrestling bears when he was a kid. He's never lost a round in the UFC. He's not as flashy as Conor McGregor. He lets his talking, he does his talking in the ring as opposed to at the press conferences. Now, Conor McGregor is an interesting figure, and there's kind of two sides to Conor. There's the Conor who's on in the whole press conference thing with the swearing and the one-liners and all of this stuff. But then there's also the Conor that you see where he's, nice with his fans and he's nice with people. And I definitely feel that there's a lot of WWE in Conor. I think there's a lot of WWE in this fight altogether, if you will. Now, for those of you not big wrestling fans, many years ago, there was a storyline that was on the WCW brand called the NWO, the New World Order. This is when Hulk Hogan turned into a bad guy, and everyone was like, what's going on here? I bring that up because they did something that was really interesting. They kind of broke the fourth wall, where it was like you'd be watching a match in the ring, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there's something in the back. We need cameras back there. What's going on? And that's exactly what you saw with the whole bus incident. Of course, Khabib was on a bus with other UFC fighters, and then Conor McGregor flew from Ireland to New York to cause some ruckus and threw a dolly at the bus. He's been getting sued. He had legal problems, all of these things. Being the conspiracy theorist that I am, not a huge conspiracy theorist, but a minimal one, there's a part of me that thinks that whole bus thing was staged. And I say that because I don't know of a situation where myself or any of my friends could legitimately and publicly get on a plane, go to another city, cause all sorts of damage, and walk away pretty much scot-free. And that's what Conor's done. It also plays into the UFC's advantage to be able to show this video time and time again as an effort to promote the fight. The Dana White that we saw when that bus incident happened was really angry. He was on stage yesterday hugging McGregor, so I'm not really sure. Anyways, as far as the fight's concerned, it's interesting. A lot is being made about the press conferences. English is not Khabib's first language, so he's really not the guy who's going to get into the whole verbal sparring. He reminds me a lot of George St. Pierre in that regard. He just lets the people trash talk him, gets in the ring or gets in the octagon, and does what he does best. Conor McGregor, though, I have to give him credit. When you look at his fight against Chad Mendes took him down several times, and there's that argument that Chad was gassed and wasn't prepared for the fight because he took it on short notice. But after that, it seemed to be pretty clear what you needed to do to beat Conor McGregor. Drag the fight out and take him down. Well, Nate Diaz was able to do it in the first fight, and in the second fight, even though I think that Conor McGregor lost that second fight, I will say when he came out with a game plan with vicious leg kicks in the first two rounds of McGregor Diaz 2. And the fight against Eddie Alvarez, with all due respect, was just embarrassing for Alvarez because it was so dominant and it was so one-sided. So as much as Khabib is saying that Conor's not getting into his head, I don't know if that's true because he left the press conference early. He seems to be rattled. He seems to be asking McGregor all these questions in terms of looking for responses from him as opposed to just kind of focusing on what he needs to do. So I can see this fight going either way, and I hate to be that guy that sits on the fence. I'd like to see Khabib win. I don't think the UFC wants to see Khabib win because they need the money train to keep going. But that being said, I don't think a loss is going to absolutely damage Conor's career, more just so the argument that he's the greatest fighter of all time, which I think is ridiculous, and I'll get to that in a second. But I have a hard time with this one because Conor has phenomenal knockout power. We've seen Khabib take a punch before, but maybe not like this. And then the thing is, if the statement is, if Conor gets him to the ground, it's over. But getting them to the ground isn't the easiest thing. We've seen him be in there, and it's not like people have the easiest time getting him down. If he does get him down, all sorts of problems for Conor. So we'll see. And my comment in regards to him being the greatest fighter of all time, I think, with all due respect, is ridiculous, and I'll explain as to why I feel that way. From a marketing standpoint, marketing genius. You don't generate the level of interest and the level of pay-per-views, have the crossover appeal to boxing if you don't have that strong marketing appeal. And I take my hat off to him. I think from that regard, absolutely amazing. My challenge and my argument for the greatest fighter of all time is that he is a champion who was never defended a title. He had the featherweight title, it was stripped. He had the lightweight title, and it was stripped. Look at it. He won the lightweight title, never defended it, had the featherweight title, had 2 fights after with Nate Diaz, never defended it. I think it's an insult to people like Daniel Cormier and Anderson Silva and George St. Pierre and Randy Couture and all these other great fighters that have come along, that have had their title and that have defended it multiple times, not to mention Demetrius Johnson. So I definitely think that he's a good fighter. I'm not going to take anything away from the man's skills. That would be ridiculous. I'm not ordering a pay-per-view tomorrow because I don't think he can fight. I'm just saying that there seems to be something in this world where everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people just need to be labeled as the greatest of all time and the best of all time. Well, to me, the resume speaks to whether or not you are the greatest of all time or one of the best of all time. And his resume doesn't speak to that. He's had high-profile fights, ridiculously high-profile fights, and kudos to him on that. But that doesn't make him the greatest. When he starts defending his title, gets a title and defends it to the magnitude of a George St. Pierre or a Daniel Cormier, then we can start having that conversation. But we're a ways away from that. A most polarizing figure? Check. Most marketable person in the UFC? Check. Greatest fighter? Not so much. Not from my perspective anyways. That's my take. Listen, so at the end of the day, if gun to the head, who do I pick to win this fight? Going into it, I'd like to say Habib, but I don't know. I kind of feel the psychological warfare might be switching over to McGregor's way. So it'll be very interesting to see. But anyways, gun to the head, if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Habib. His stats: never lost a round, undefeated. I mean, undefeated, you have to lose at some point. But I think the fact that Conor's been off for several years is not going to help him, especially when he's going in against somebody of this level of talent. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. CFL_fan on Twitter, Facebook.com/WittyWhittier and WittyWhittier.com. Thank you so much for checking this out. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.